let me tell you something. Japan was never really at the top of my list. I mean, it was on the list, sure, but it was somewhere in the middle, you know? Like, maybe one day kind of thing. But then one cheap flight appeared on my screen one afternoon, and honestly, that was it. Decision made, no long thinking, no big planning. Just, okay, let's go. I booked the ticket, and then I didn't think about it for 3 weeks. The flight was long, really long, about 14 hours. And somewhere around hour 9, I completely lost my mind. I couldn't sleep properly. The seat was okay, not great. The person next to me kept sneezing. A lot. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. But then the pilot said those words, "We are now approaching Tokyo." And something changed. I looked out the window and I could see the city below. Millions of tiny lights stretching out in every direction. It looked like someone had dropped a bucket of stars on the ground. I forgot I was tired. I just stared. Then we landed, and the chaos began. Okay, chaos is maybe a strong word, but Narita Airport is big, really big. And when your brain is somewhere between awake and sleeping, big is not your friend. There were signs everywhere, some in English, some in Japanese, some in both. And somehow, I still managed to go the wrong way, twice. I followed the signs for immigration, or at least I thought I did, and ended up near a coffee shop. The coffee smelled amazing, by the way. I almost stopped, but I had a bag, a backpack, a slightly broken suitcase wheel, and zero energy for a line. So I kept walking. Immigration was actually fine. The officer looked at my passport, looked at me, looked at my passport again, and then stamped it without saying a single word. I said, "Thank you," in Japanese. "Arigatou gozaimasu," and it came out completely wrong. He smiled anyway. That was nice. I grabbed my bag, found the exit, and stepped into Japan. The air felt different. Cleaner, maybe. Or maybe I was just so happy to be off the plane that everything felt better. I slept for 10 hours that first night. My body needed it. The next morning, I woke up feeling great, fresh, ready. I had a simple plan. Take the metro, go to Shibuya, walk around, grab some food. Easy, right? Wrong. Look, I've used metro systems before. London, Seoul, a few others. I'm not completely helpless. But Tokyo's metro is something else entirely. So many lines. Different colors, different companies, different tickets for different trains. I stood in front of the ticket machine for a long time. A really long time. People were moving around me, buying their tickets in about 4 seconds each. And I was just standing there, staring at the screen like it owed me something. I eventually bought a ticket. I found my platform, I got on the train, and I even found a seat. It felt like a small victory. The train was quiet, extremely quiet. Nobody was talking. Everyone was either reading or looking at their phone. I looked out the window and enjoyed the view, feeling pretty good about myself. About 20 minutes later, I noticed something. The station names didn't look familiar anymore. I checked my map. I was going in the completely wrong direction. I had taken the right line but the wrong train, because some trains on the same line go different ways. I did not know this. I got off at the next stop. I stood on the platform. I looked left, I looked right, and I said very quietly, so nobody could hear, "Okay, this is fine." And eventually, it was fine. I figured it out. got on the right train, and arrived at Shibuya about 45 minutes later than planned. The famous crossing was right there. Hundreds of people walking in every direction at the same time, like a beautiful, organized storm. I stood and watched for a few minutes. That moment was worth the wrong train. Now I need to talk about something important. Something nobody warned me about. Japanese convenience stores. Back home, a convenience store is fine. You go there when you need something at midnight, and everywhere else is closed. You buy something that is probably not great for you, and you leave. That is the experience. Japan is different. So different. I walked into a 7-Eleven on my second evening, just to buy a bottle of water. I walked out 20 minutes later with a rice ball, something wrapped in seaweed that I didn't fully understand, a fresh coffee from a machine that made it right in front of me, 2 small desserts, and yes, the water. I also almost bought a hot potato. I decided not to. I went back the next morning and bought it. It was incredible, by the way. The rice balls, they are called onigiri, became my thing. Every single day. Tuna mayo, salmon, grilled chicken, pickled plum. They are cheap, they are filling, they are everywhere. And the coffee machines. You press a button. A tiny cup of real coffee appears. It is not expensive. It is not fancy. But at 8 in the morning, standing outside a convenience store in Tokyo and drinking that little coffee, it felt like the best thing in the world. By day 3, I was going to the konbini at least twice a day, sometimes 3 times. Was it a little too much? Maybe. Did I care? Not even a little bit. The food situation in Japan is something I still think about. A lot. On my 3rd day, I decided to be brave. No more convenience store safety net, at least not for dinner. I walked into a small restaurant near my hostel. It had a little curtain over the door, a few plastic food models in the window, and about 8 seats inside. Perfect, I thought. Simple, local, real. The menu had pictures, which I was very grateful for. I pointed at something that looked like a noodle soup with some kind of meat on top. The woman behind the counter nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. A few minutes later, a bowl arrived in front of me. It smelled incredible. I picked up my chopsticks, took a big confident bite, and okay. It was more sour than I expected. Much more sour. And there was a texture I could not quite identify. Soft, a little slippery, and honestly, a little strange. I did not hate it, but I did not love it either. I finished the bowl anyway because I'm not a quitter, and also because the woman kept looking over at me with a proud smile and I did not want to let her down. The next morning I went back to the konbini. Some lessons take time to learn. But not every food moment was a mystery. A couple of days later, someone at my hostel told me to try ramen, proper ramen from a real ramen shop, not the instant kind. I found a small place down a narrow street. You order from a vending machine at the entrance, which I thought was the strangest thing at first, but actually makes everything faster and simpler. I pressed a button, got a ticket, handed it to the chef, and sat down at the counter. The bowl that came out was enormous. Rich, dark broth, thick noodles, a perfectly soft egg sitting right in the middle, and 2 slices of pork that practically melted. I did not speak for about 10 minutes. I just ate. That was honestly one of the best meals of my life, and I say that without any exaggeration. The language barrier, though, that was its own adventure. My Japanese was basically 0. I had learned 3 words before the trip. Hello, thank you, and excuse me. That was it. That was my entire language toolkit for a country where not everyone speaks English. Most of the time I used gestures, pointing, and a lot of hopeful smiling. It worked about 60% of the time. The other 40% was interesting. One afternoon, I walked into a pharmacy because I needed some basic things, nothing serious, just the kind of stuff you forget to pack. I tried to explain what I needed to the staff member. I pointed at my face. I made some gestures. I even tried drawing something small on my hand. She looked at me very patiently and very kindly, and then called over a colleague. The colleague also looked at me very patiently and very kindly. We all stood there together for a moment. Then she pulled out her phone, opened a translation app, typed something, and showed me the screen. It said, "Please follow me," and she walked me directly to exactly what I needed. I wanted to hug her. I just said arigato about 5 times instead. Those small moments of kindness happened more than once that week. People going out of their way to help a confused stranger who could not even ask for directions properly. It made a big impression on me. One evening near Asakusa, I was standing on a street corner, looking completely lost, map open, bag on my back, the universal expression of a person who has no idea where they are. A man who looked around 60 stopped next to me. He did not say anything at first. He just looked at my map, then looked up at the street, then pointed left. I nodded. He walked with me for 2 full blocks, pointed at the temple gate, gave a small bow, and walked back the way he came. He did not ask for anything. He just helped. That kind of thing stays with you. The temple itself, Sensoji in Asakusa, was something I was not fully prepared for. I had seen photos, obviously, but walking through that giant gate in person, with the lantern hanging above and the long path stretching ahead and the smell of incense in the air, it was calm in a way that is hard to describe. The city was right there, just outside, all noise and movement and crowds. But inside the temple grounds, it felt like a different world. I sat on a stone step for a while and just existed. No phone, no map, no plan, just sitting. I do not do that very often at home. Maybe I should. Then came day 6, and my wallet started crying. I had been pretty careful with money up until that point. Konbini meals, cheap ramen, walking everywhere instead of taxis. I was doing well. But then I made the mistake of going shopping. Just browsing, I told myself. Just looking. Famous last words. There was a street in Harajuku full of small shops, each one more interesting than the last. I bought a jacket I did not need. I bought 2 small gifts. I bought something ceramic that I am still not sure what it is, but it looked beautiful. I bought snacks. More snacks. A book in Japanese that I cannot read, but the cover was nice. By the end of the afternoon, I sat down on a bench, opened my banking app, and just stared at the number for a moment. It was fine. It was all going to be fine. I just had konbini dinners for the last 2 nights, which honestly did not feel like a punishment at all. On my last evening, I walked slowly back through a part of the city I had already seen, past the bright signs and the quiet side streets and the vending machines on every corner selling hot drinks and cold drinks and things I still do not fully understand. I thought about the wrong train on day 2 and the sour mystery soup and the man who walked me 2 blocks without saying a single word, and the ramen that made me go completely silent. A week goes fast when every day is new. Japan was loud and quiet at the same time, confusing and logical, overwhelming and somehow very easy to be in. I did not figure it out, not even close. But that is okay. Some places are not meant to be figured out in a week. Some places are just meant to be felt. And I already checked the flight prices for next year.